Aloha. My name is Anna Hudson, and I'm the state president of Hawaii. And I'm honored to welcome today's speaker, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi is a former congresswoman, a combat veteran, and a strong independent leader who has never been afraid to challenge the status quo. She's committed to protecting our freedoms, defending American values, and putting people above politics. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to the Director of National Security, Tulsi Gabbard.
Thank you. Aloha. It's great to see all of you. It's good to be back. I know I had the opportunity to join you a couple years ago in Oklahoma. How far we have come since then, huh? We get to hear from our president. Great thanks to the incredible work that all of you did through this last election to make his presidency once again possible. Your national president, Julie, was telling me a little bit about some of the high points, the millions of hours all of you put into volunteering for his campaign, the phone calls, millions of phone calls that you made, reaching out to people, telling them why President Trump was the right choice for America, the right choice for our families and for us as Americans, and the right choice for freedom. It's very appropriate that, we look at what happened in this last election. We saw how the president brought together what some may have thought was an unlikely coalition. He mentioned Secretary Kennedy, bringing people together who believe in freedom, who believe in the Constitution, who believe in objective truth, who believe in common sense, and believe in the leader who will put the American people's interests first every single time. And that's why we have President Trump back in the White House again. So when we look at this historic election, and we look at people like you who really made this possible, it's very appropriate as we think back to now almost 250 years ago at the founding of our country. I know this is the theme for the evening, that we are almost celebrating our 250th birthday as a country. Next year is going to be phenomenal, phenomenal. But we look back at what our founders envisioned for us. That in their wisdom, they recognize that our freedoms, our God-given freedoms, would be under constant assault. They recognize that those who are put in a position of power may forget where that power actually comes from, the people, and forget who they actually work for. There are not many people who expected President Trump to win in 2016. There are not many people who expected him to win in 2024, but in both cases, against, as the president talks about, 95% of the mainstream propaganda media writing negative articles, negative shows against him, slandering him with lies and smears, all odds against his candidacy. We saw the waging of lawfare, an unprecedented number of indictments, all of which fell to the wayside. But against all odds, what shined through? The voices of we the people. So it's appropriate now, as we look towards our 250th birthday as a country, to recognize, as you have shown through your actions, the responsibility that every single one of us carries to keep our founders' vision for this great nation alive. to always stand in the breach when our freedoms are under attack, to remember the words in our Declaration of Independence, of our inalienable rights granted to us by our Creator. And it's up to us as citizens of this great nation to stand strong and defend those freedoms by exercising them. And what better example for us to be inspired by at this time than our dear friend Charlie Kirk. Someone who at a very, very young age took to heart and made a commitment with his life to live out the vision that our founders had for us, to defend free speech by welcoming it, by welcoming people who had differing views, people who disagreed with him, and not calling them names, not belittling them, not telling them to get out of the room, but instead saying, step forward, let's talk. Treating them with compassion, treating them with the kind of respect that comes from what we in Hawaii call aloha, a recognition that we are all God's children. And the best way for us to defend free speech is to exercise it. The best way to defeat lies is by speaking the truth. And the best way to defeat those who are against freedom, those who believe that they are above the Constitution, those who try to put themselves in the position of being God by denying the existence of God and by denying the existence of objective truth. What better way to defeat their insanity and the weakness of their ideas than by doing so in the way that Charlie did, with superior arguments, with reason, with truth, all grounded and rooted in freedom and the Constitution. My husband and I have been looking at a number of videos of Charlie in different places, on college campuses and in Cambridge University, his conversations with people here at home and abroad, and it's so inspiring. He's truly one of a kind. Not only in his choice of the arena that he chose to step into as a warrior for freedom and a warrior for our Constitution, but how he used his words as weapons to defeat lies. How he used his words as weapons to expose the weakness of his opposition's arguments while inspiring people to think for themselves, to understand the truth. And it has been inspiring to see his strength, to see his fearlessness, and to know the source of that fearlessness being God. I had the privilege of going out to a few different campus conversations with him, most recently last year in Arizona and in Nevada. We went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and it was truly something to behold. You know, I'd seen the videos, of course, I've known Charlie for a while, but to actually go there and sit next to him and see how, even as there were many, many people there who loved Charlie, who supported him, who were asking, like, where's my Make America Great Again hat? They stood in line to tell Charlie how he had changed their lives, how he had inspired them, and how much they supported him. And Charlie, in his constant humility, was grateful, but deferential in a way that he gave his praise to God and his gratitude to God for his grace in Charlie's life. But Charlie wasn't there on these campuses to be praised or to be thanked. He usually asked them to step aside or ask them, "Do you have a question?" And if they didn't, he would ask the crowd of thousands of people, "Who here disagrees with me? Come to the front of the line." And encourage them to speak up. And when some in the crowd started to boo what they were saying, he hushed the crowd and said, "Listen," understanding the power of that conversation, understanding the power of how love is the only thing that can defeat hate. And that where that light of love comes from, truly from God, this is the power that gives us the strength to forge ahead, to be warriors for freedom in our own right, in our own way, in our own communities, to defend our country, not just for today, but for generations to come. The assaults on our freedoms are constant. We saw just earlier this week how Google finally admitted that they were censoring us, as many of us knew, at the order of President Biden's administration. We heard the same admission of guilt from Mark Zuckerberg with Meta or Facebook earlier on. We saw today or yesterday the Prime Minister of the UK now mandating a digital ID for anyone who wants to work in the UK. Mandatory, you will not get a job unless you have a digital ID. What does that mean? Government control, a lack of liberty, a lack of privacy. The things for us in our own Constitution are enshrined, things that we continue to fight to defend every day. We cannot be complacent. We cannot rest on our laurels. We must continue to remain vigilant. We have to defend these freedoms because without them, our nation is lost. We lose our very identity as Americans. We have fought many battles, and these battles continue to go on, whether they be in school board meetings or in our schools with our kids. The president talked about the progress that's been made around increasing parental choice when it comes to education, empowering parents to decide if you want to homeschool your kids, we'll support you. If you want to send them to a religious school, we'll support you. He talked about how he's signed executive orders and Congress has passed legislation to protect our kids in their bathrooms, to protect girls from having to compete against boys in sports. And all of these things, again, coming down to basic common sense and objective truth. And again, this is why Charlie chose these campuses as his arena to step up and fight, recognizing that it is in our young people where we hold the promise of our future. And if we can raise a generation of young people who are thinking for themselves, not just accepting what they're being fed on social media or from the propaganda media, not thinking, well, I have to be on this team or that team, but understanding our roots and foundations in the Constitution and individual liberty, that this is where our country was born, and only this is what will ensure the future of our country. And how amazing is it to see that even in the darkness and the tragedy of Charlie's murder, to see millions of hearts being lifted up, yes, to God, but millions of hearts being lifted up to move, to take action. I know there's been 2 TPUSA college events since Charlie was murdered now. Both of them have been sold out with thousands standing outside of the campus. How incredible is it to see that Charlie's impact and his voice that his adversaries sought to silence is now louder than ever before. We have an incredible opportunity before us. And each of you are here in this hall because you are leaders in your own communities. You are leaders in your own states. You are forging a path. Sometimes in states like my home state of Hawaii can be a little challenging at times. But you are not deterred. You continue to do the work that is necessary, demonstrating the resilience and the strength and the courage that is required, and that upholds the legacy of so many who have come before us. For Constitution Day, just a couple of weeks ago, I went back and started reading some of the Federalist documents and looking back at what our founders went through as they were crafting our foundational documents. And it's very inspiring. People who didn't come from means or from politics, they weren't fancy people necessarily, but they were people who believed and had this great vision for our country. We look at those across generations of our men and women in uniform who've raised their right hand to serve our country, promising to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those knowing, as many times I have said and others have said, I will defend your right to speech even if I disagree with it with my very life. So when the going gets a little tough and when the days seem dark, let's remember Charlie's prayer, God, use me for your will. And remember God's words to every one of us. Do not be afraid, for I am with you always. He said, I will strengthen you and I will help you. We know what we have to do. Our mission as Americans is very clear. And while, yes, a historic election was won by President Trump largely because of the great work that you and others like you did across the country, understanding what was at stake, the road does not end here. We don't get the luxury of saying, all right, good job, guys, we won. I'm going to go home and relax. You can relax for a minute, just a minute. But we have a lot of work ahead of us to be able to bring about the kind of very real change that the president is leading. The change that, yes, comes about in his executive orders, but the change that has to come about in Congress. We have important elections next year. This kind of change can only exist and last if we persist and continue this important work that welcomes people who may not think about being involved with politics, but once they understand this is important for me, for my family, for my kids, this is important for us to live free so that we can make our own choices, so that we can use our own voice. This is the mission that every one of us as Americans have, and why we must persist. I want to leave you with an experience that I had during my first deployment. I was in Iraq, deployed to a place about 40 miles north of Baghdad in 2005. And within the first couple of days of arriving there, I saw a big sign that was at one of the gates that the security and infantry patrols went in and out of every day. And it read in big block letters, "Is today the day?" Is today the day? It hit me like a ton of bricks at that time as an ever-present reminder that any day can be our last. And yes, I served in a medical unit there where every day we were confronted with the high human cost of war and who pays the price. And so that sign was an ever-present reminder, serving in a war zone on the other side of the world. But as we've seen with Charlie, it is just as true for us here today. None of us knows how much time we have in this world, in this life. It's an important reflection and one that I hold near and dear to my heart, a daily reflection and a daily prayer that I may do my best to offer my life to do God's will and make the most with every day that I am blessed with breath in this body. Is today the day? So when the going gets tough, I have some hard days sometimes too. The tough get going. Who said that? There we go. May God bless you all and continue to give you the strength, the courage, the insight, the clarity to persist, to make the most of every single day that we have. May God bless you all. Thank you so much for all that you do. God bless America. Aloha. Thank you.